there's reasonable steps you can take for security. Now, there's no such thing as perfect security. I can lock all the doors in my house. I can lock the windows. I cannot guarantee that we won't be broken into in the middle of the night. I can't guarantee that. All I can do is take reasonable security steps. And it's exactly the same with anything digital you have out there. Hey, how are you doing? It's Alan here from Dublin. Now, HSE has been attacked. HSE, for people, I know some people outside Ireland will be watching this. So HSE, for people outside Ireland, is a health service executive. It's basically our government health agency. Cyber attack. It's in all the papers. Has personal medical information been leaked? Politicians say probably has. Personal medical information. It's really important. This is the main government body in Ireland for medical. Good security, very, very good security. Has invested into security. Has put a lot of money into security. The American pipeline, the American oil pipeline has been attacked. Cybersecurity attack. I hear that in New Zealand, the medical body has been attacked. And there are attacks left and right, cyber attacks. And it's a problem. And we see for smaller businesses, for medium-sized businesses, smaller businesses, what does this mean? What does this mean when you don't have the money that the HSE has to put into web security? And security is important. There was a company in Clare, in Ennis and Clare, that got attacked. Very, very high profile. Loyalty build a couple of years ago. And this is an ongoing thing. It's a lucrative business for these hackers because the HSE will say that they won't pay them, and that's policy. The Americans will say that too, and the people in New Zealand will say that too. And we'll never know. We'll never know because they're not going to say whether they've paid them or not. So we'll never know whether they do, but whether they have. But it's one thing you can be sure is they're not doing it for no reason. There's a benefit in it for them. So you imagine that somebody's getting paid somewhere. And this is an issue for you too. If you're not in the HSE, if you're not good, you don't have the kind of funds to sink into cybersecurity, you're a smaller target because you can't pay the amount of money that the HSE can pay. But it's still good to have good security. Now, there's no such thing as perfect security. Like my home, before I go to bed, I have kids, so before I go to bed, I have a routine where I make sure everything's locked up, the windows and the doors are locked. When we leave the house, even when we go on holiday, when you're able to do that, you make sure everything's locked up. You make sure that nothing's going to go on fire. There's reasonable steps you can take for security. Now, there's no such thing as perfect security. I can lock all the doors in my house. I can lock the windows. I cannot guarantee that we won't be broken into in the middle of the night. I can't guarantee that. All I can do is take reasonable security steps. And it's exactly the same with anything digital you have out there. It's useful for you to take reasonable security steps. Make sure you have backups, consistent backups. Depending on what you have, once a month might be fine, or maybe you want once every day if it's been updated a lot. If you have, and if you're using security is really simple. You don't implement your own security. You don't implement your own security because you have, this is the issue that Loyalty Build in Ennis had. They implemented their own security and they probably put a lot of money into security. But you don't have the resources that the banks have. And you don't have the resources that a lot of other companies that you can connect into have. This is the way it works now. You connect into companies where you trust their security as much as you can. As I said, there's no such thing as perfect security, but if you're doing a transaction, the transaction goes through Stripe or RealX or whatever it happens to be, or PayPal, where you're using their security systems and the bank security systems. So you never ever hold on credit card information. And I think that was the issue that Loyalty Build had, that they were holding credit card information. You never hold those details. That's the bank's job. That's not your job. But also, if you're holding customer data, which is really, really important, and everybody has to do this. We need to prospect, we need to email people, we need to talk to people. You need to hold data on customers. But for smaller businesses, you don't have the budget to put into security, because security is a full-time job and it's every single day. You don't have that sort of budget. But you can work with companies that do have the budget. In order, you just plug into their systems and they look after security for you. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. It's called taking reasonable precautions. There's no such thing as perfect security, particularly today. And security is changing all the time. We see the banks are implementing a new system now where you have to put in a password or they text your phone in order to approve every transaction. And that may slow down transactions. But they have a team of people working every day implementing that stuff to make sure it's secure. You have your own job to do. You're busy. You don't have time to be dealing with the technical issues of security every day. But the bank do, so you just let them do their job and plug into their systems. It's very, very simple. And the same with holding customer data. You use companies in Europe, hopefully, because there are some agreements between America and Europe and stuff like that, but there are some issues about holding customer data outside Europe. And you connect into their systems and trust their security as much as you can. I use an Apple device and I use 1Password for passwords, and you trust their systems because they have a team of people who work on security every day. So there's no perfect security. And as we can see with banks getting hacked, Apple got hacked. Well, it wasn't Apple, it was a company that was working with Apple to design new, I don't know what it was, whether it was iPads or iPhones, but they were building the new iPads or iPhones or whatever, Macs. And I think the designs for new Macs got out, they were hacked. And hackers said that they need to pay them a certain amount of money, and if they didn't, they would every week or whatever release some of the designs of the new Macs that were coming out, which they did, and it was all over YouTube where people were saying, "Well, these are the new Macs that are coming out because the hackers released it." And I imagine they got paid. No one's going to say they paid a hacker, but I imagine they probably got paid as well because the design stopped coming out after a while. So it's a really, really big deal. It's a really big deal. And there's no such thing as perfect security. If they can hack Apple, if they can hack the HSE, if they can hack the American oil pipeline, they can hack you. They can hack anybody. But we can take reasonable security steps, just like we do in our homes, just like we do in our businesses. If you have an office or a premises, you make sure that place is locked up. If you're in a cash business where you're carrying cash to the bank at the end of the day, you're very careful about how you bring that cash to the bank. It's just being reasonable in the world we're in. And exactly the same online. Just take reasonable steps to make sure everything is secure. And that's all you can do. Are you immune? No. But you have taken the proper steps. This has been Alan here from Dublin. Just wanted to talk about all the recent hacks that are taking place. And I'm sure this is going to be more and more and more in the future. It's going to go on and on and on. So it's a good idea for everybody. Just like you do in your real life, in your virtual life and digital, you take reasonable steps to ensure security.